George Washington was a lover of the Jewish people. And I'm not going to get into all of it. But he was. As were most of the founding fathers. John Adams was, Abraham Lincoln was, Thomas Jefferson was to a certain extent. The founding fathers had a tremendous respect for the people of Israel, for the Bible, for the Hebrew language, for ancient Israel. So we should know that. And there is a famous story. Supposedly it's true. It might have some truth in it and then a little bit of legend in it. It doesn't really matter. I think I offered this story many years ago, but I want to share it again because it's my favorite Hanukkah story, okay? And it's not long, okay? And it's based on the fact that of a story that was written in a journal of a Revolutionary War Jewish soldier, okay? It is Hanukkah in the year 1776. The winter at Valley Forge is hard and the cold is fearsome, and we are starving for bread, and we have no clothes to warm our bodies and no shoes for our feet. And at these moments, I am reminded of my father in Poland. I recall how much he suffered at the hands of the cruel Baron. I remember I was but a youngster and saw my father dance before the Baron. How terrible was the sight. My father was made to dress up in the skin of a white bear, and he danced for the sport of the Baron and his guest. How great is my pain and shame. Father dances as a bear in the Baron's jest and revels. I affirmed in my heart that I will never be so humiliated myself, and at my first opportunity, I set sail to America. It is now the first night of Hanukkah. This very night, 2 years ago, I fled from my father's home in Poland. My father gave me a Chanukiah menorah and said, "When you will light, my son, these candles for Hanukkah, they will illuminate the path for you." And from that day on, my menorah was as an amulet. Wherever I go, I take it with me. Suddenly, I feel a soft, tender hand upon my head, and I lift up my eyes, and behold, it is him in all majesty, General George Washington, standing upon me. And he asks me, "Why, soldier, do you cry? Is it then so very cold?" And I forgot at that moment that I am a soldier in the presence of my superior and spoke before him as a child to a parent. "My master, the general," I said, "I cry and pray for your victory. I am certain that with the help of God, we shall prevail. Today the enemy is strong. Tomorrow they will surely fall, for justice is for us. We seek to be free in this land. We desire to build a country for all who flee from oppression and suffer abroad. The barons will not rule here. The enemy will falter and you will succeed." The general shook my hand. "Thank you, soldier," he said, and sat at my side next to the menorah. "What is this?" asked the general. I told him I brought it here from my parents' home. Jews the world over light this menorah to celebrate the great miracle of Hanukkah and the miraculous salvation of the Jews. The light of Hanukkah menorah danced in the eyes of General Washington as he called forth in joy, "You are a Jew from the children of prophets, and you declared that we shall prevail." "Yes, my master," I answered with confidence. "We will be victorious as the Maccabees of old, for our own sake and for the sake of all who follow us, to build a new land and a new life." The general got up. His face was ablaze. He shook my hands and disappeared into the darkness. And my faith was rewarded. Victory was achieved, and peace reigned in the country. My general became the leader of our new nation, and I became one of his citizens. I quickly forgot these frightful days and nights at Valley Forge. However, the first night of Hanukkah with General Washington, I carried in my heart always as a precious dream. The first night of Hanukkah the following year of 1777, and we know this to be true, I was sitting in my house in New York on Broome Street with a Hanukkah light in my window. That's where the Jews lived at that time. Suddenly, I heard a knock on the door. And I opened the door, and incredibly, my general, George Washington, is standing in the doorway. Behold the wondrous flame, the flame of hope of all jewelry, he called forth in joy as he gazed upon the light. And the general placed his hand over my shoulder and said, this light in your beautiful words lit a flame in my heart that night. Surely you and your comrades will receive due recognition for all of your valor at Valley Forge. But this night, accept from me this medallion. He hung the medallion of gold upon my chest and shook my hand. Tears came to my eyes and I couldn't say a word. The general shook my hand once again and left the house. I stirred as if coming from a beautiful dream, and I then looked upon my medallion and saw a beautiful engraving of a Hanukkah menorah with the first candle lit, and below it was written, as an expression of gratitude for the candle of your menorah. Now, the fact of the matter is that one of these medallions is in the Jewish Museum in New York. That's a great story, isn't it? An amazing story. Okay. Much better than a long